everyone! I wanted to take a moment to introduce myself as the owner of Spice by Rachel Sweet, and I also wanted to take some time to answer some common questions that I get. So the first question that I get often is, why did you name your business after yourself? And that's a great question. In my line of work, and I currently work in the pharmaceutical industry on the quality side of things, your signature means that you are willing to vouch for the quality and integrity of anything it's on. And if I was willing to back up anything in my line of work with my signature, I also wanted to back up my business with my name and my signature as well. And so that's what that means. Another question I get is, how did you get started? And I started my business in March, April of 2020, right when the COVID pandemic lockdown first happened. I was a contract scientist at the time, and because I was a contract employee, I was going to be one of the first people laid off if it came to layoffs. And so I decided to start a business as a backup plan. Because many people were home learning how to cook for the first time, or even just making routine meals every single night of the week. That was something that I really wanted to help people become better at and try new things and try to alleviate some of that extra stress of what's for dinner. Were you always a good cook? Actually, no, I would not even call myself a cook. I remember in college I had to call my mom to ask her how to make hot dogs because I had no idea. And I also remember the first and only time that I made jam. I burned the pot so badly. It took me over a week to try and clean it and soak it, and after about a week I just had to throw it away because it was burned so badly you couldn't even use it. And so that was how I started. So I've come a long way since then. I've learned a lot along the way. I'm still learning. I have no formal training at all in any kind of culinary anything. How did you get the idea to do pre-measured mixes? Actually, it was a memorable conversation with my sister that sparked this idea. I was at her house, I was a guest for dinner, and we were chatting in the kitchen while she was cooking. And as she's adding her ingredients to her pot, she's talking about she's reading her recipe and saying, oh, I need to add 2 teaspoons of salt. And so she goes, gets the salt and measures it out and adds it. And then she's looking at the next ingredients and she's like, oh, there's so many, there's such a long list. You know what? Forget it. I'm just gonna add Italian mix and call it a day. And so she just poured some in and that was that. And that's what gave me the idea, because I myself don't like to look at a long list of spices that I have to measure each one out, and then I have to wash 4 different measuring spoons. And so that's what really sparked the idea. I modeled it after Keurig's K-Cups, where everything's pre-measured. All you do is just put it in and press go and you get coffee or tea. In spice mixes, I wanted everything to be pre-measured. You just add it to whatever you're making, stir it up, done. Nothing else involved. I didn't like the idea of generating a lot of waste. That was the thing about the convenience of K-Cups that did bother me. So I really made an effort to find compostable or at least recyclable materials in my products. So all of the bags are made out of compostable plant-based resin, and anything that I couldn't find compostable is recyclable. It's still a process, it's still a journey. There's some things that I haven't figured out yet. Shipping is one thing that I'm working on. Things like bubble wrap and tape. Because I use so much of it, I really want to have the best thing for the environment because it's important to me. Another question is, what is your business model? That's a really big question. So I really wanted to make spice mixes that were very versatile. I didn't want anything that you could use to make one thing and that just became clutter in your kitchen or your pantry. So the criteria when I was creating the spice mixes was that everything had to be good in rice and good on chicken. And that way you could kind of use it for everything. I didn't want you to go to a website that had 85 different varieties of pepper or salt, or that you couldn't find anything specific. So I really try to streamline the meal prep. I want something that's versatile, can be used for many different meals, and that isn't overwhelming. I also really wanted to make everything as streamlined as possible, where I can't think of any recipes actually that aren't one pot meals. I wanted to minimize cleanup. I didn't want to create a lot of dishes. This is really meant for working families or people who are still new to cooking, and it's kind of daunting to have so many dishes piled up or so many techniques that you have to learn in order to get a meal. It was really important to me to make it streamlined as possible and easy to do. So why organic? Well, that is really important to me. I was not willing to compromise on organic, and I remember I took a cooking course, and it was a nighttime class, and each person was in charge of making one part of the meal, and then we would all come together and share what everyone made. And I remember I had to add granulated MSG to my meal, and I was just not willing to do that at all. I could not bring myself to give other people something that I wasn't willing to have myself. And so I ended up just adding a lot of hot sauce to this meal to make up for the lack of umami flavoring. And I think it wasn't the best idea. I think I had ended up having to take home a lot of leftovers because people weren't pleased about how much hot sauce was in this. But it really hit home that something that I wasn't willing to have myself was not something that I could ever serve to anyone else. So all of our ingredients are always organic. They are all tested in a quality control laboratory before they come to me, before they even go out to you. So I make sure that they are the highest quality possible because that's very, very important to me. I put my name on this and I want to make sure that it's something that I stand by. You also won't find any bonus ingredients in our mixes. So there's, for example, no colorings added. And so you'll see, depending on the season or the harvest, that color changes in some of our ingredients. Sometimes the ginger I get is just a bright yellow, and other times it's more of a white almost. The same with sage. It could be a vibrant green, or it can be kind of a lighter green depending on how much rain we got that year. And so I'm not willing to add colorings to our mixes because I don't believe that it belongs in any food product that I produce. You also won't find any anti-caking agents in my mixes, and as a result of that, some of them will cake. I know garlic is a common one that tends to cake, and so you'll notice, especially in our slightly spicy Cajun mix or the sweet fennel mix, they kind of cake sometimes. And if you just squeeze them in the packaging and break them up a little, or just add them as is, they'll break up and dissolve in your meal as you're cooking it. I wasn't willing to add any anti-caking agents. There's also no fillers. And so you'll notice when you do use my mixes that they're a little more potent than the ones that you'll find in the grocery store. And that's because they're just spices. There's no other extra ingredients. And if it's just spice there's no fillers, then you get a lot more flavor in the spice mix that you're using. So that's the background on Spice by Rachel Sweet. I hope that I've answered some of your questions. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us at our website at spicebyrachelsweet.com if you do have additional questions. I hope that I can be a positive influence on your meal times. I would love for you to have the reward of a delicious, healthy meal without so much hassle and the daunting thought of all the dishes after. And that's my goal for you.